They called him a menace, a kingpin, a national threat. His name echoed through the streets, whispered in fear and awe. To the authorities, he was a symbol of everything wrong with society, a man who thrived in the shadows, orchestrating a network of crime that spanned continents. But who was he really? Was he just a criminal mastermind, or was there more to his story? But to some, he was the only one who truly cared. In neighborhoods where hope was a rare commodity, he was a beacon of support. He provided for the needy, protected the vulnerable, and in many ways became a pillar of the community. His actions, though often shrouded in illegality, had a dual nature. They brought both fear and relief, chaos and order. This is the story of Norris Deedo Nembhard, a man whose life was a complex tapestry of contradictions. Born into a world of poverty and limited opportunities, he carved out a path that few could have imagined. His rise to power was as much about survival as it was about ambition, one of the most powerful figures in Jamaica's criminal underworld. His reach extended far beyond the island's shores, influencing drug trade routes and criminal enterprises across the globe. His name became synonymous with the dark side of globalization, where illicit activities flourished in the shadows of legitimate commerce. A man who allegedly helped flood the US, Canada, and the UK with cocaine right from Jamaica's international airports. His operations were sophisticated, utilizing a network of couriers, corrupt officials, and advanced logistics to move vast quantities of drugs across borders. And a man whose funeral looked more like a state celebration. Thousands gathered to pay their respects, a testament to the complex legacy he left behind. For some, he was a hero, a man who stood up to the powers that be and provided for his people in ways that the government never could. For others, he was a villain, a man whose actions brought untold suffering and destruction. Was he a cold-blooded criminal or a misunderstood leader rising from a broken system? The truth, as always, lies somewhere in between. His life was a reflection of the complexities and contradictions of the world he inhabited. A world where the lines between right and wrong, good and evil, were often blurred. Norris Nembhard grew up in the rural areas of Jamaica, an area where people typically became small farmers and lived in quiet communities. Opportunities were scarce. Power belonged to those who could take it. In neighborhoods plagued by poverty, Deedo found his purpose first as a survivor, then as a leader. What started with small-time hustling grew into something far larger than anyone could have predicted. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Deedo wasn't working alone. He had become a significant player in a much larger and more sophisticated operation. This was not just a small-time local endeavor. It was an intricate web of criminal activities that spanned continents and involved numerous individuals, each playing a specific role in the grand scheme of things. Deedo's rise in the criminal underworld was marked by his ability to network and form alliances with other influential figures in the drug trade. These connections allowed him to expand his reach and increase his influence, making him a key figure in the international drug trafficking scene. He was part of a larger trafficking group, an organized network allegedly responsible for sending hundreds of drug couriers every month. These couriers, often referred to as mules, were the lifeblood of the operation. They were meticulously trained and carefully selected to ensure the success of each mission. The network had a well-established system for recruiting and managing these couriers, who were often lured by the promise of quick money or coerced through threats and intimidation. The couriers would travel to various destinations, carrying drugs hidden in their luggage, on their bodies, or even inside their bodies. The network's efficiency and effectiveness were a testament to the level of planning and coordination involved. At the height of their operation, it was believed they controlled nearly 50% of the outbound drug flow through Jamaica's two international airports, Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay and Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston were the primary gateways for the network's drug shipments. The network had insiders at these airports who facilitated the smooth passage of the couriers, ensuring that the drugs reached their destinations without detection. The scale of the operation was staggering, with drugs being smuggled out of the country on a daily basis. The network's ability to operate with such impunity was a reflection of the corruption and complicity that existed within the system. That meant half the flights every day were potentially moving cocaine to the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. These countries were the primary markets for the network's drugs, and the demand was insatiable. The network had established roots and connections in these countries, allowing them to distribute the drugs efficiently and effectively. The profits generated from these operations were astronomical, fueling the network's growth and expansion. The network's ability to move such large quantities of drugs on a daily basis was a testament to their organizational skills and the level of control they had over the entire process. They operated with precision, using mules, often young women or desperate men, who swallowed pellets or wore custom garments. These mules were the unsung heroes of the operation, risking their lives to transport the drugs. The process of swallowing pellets was particularly dangerous, as a single ruptured pellet could result in a fatal overdose. The network had developed specialized training programs to teach the mules how to swallow the pellets and manage the risks involved. In addition to swallowing pellets, the mules also used custom-made garments with hidden compartments to smuggle the drugs. These garments were designed to be undetectable by airport security, allowing the mules to pass through checkpoints without arousing suspicion. And this wasn't just survival. It was a business, a highly lucrative business that operated with the same level of professionalism and efficiency as any legitimate enterprise. The network had a hierarchical structure, with each member playing a specific role in the operation. There were recruiters who found and trained the mules, logisticians who planned the routes and managed the shipments, and enforcers who ensured compliance and dealt with any threats to the operation. The network also had financial experts who managed the profits, laundering the money through various channels to avoid detection. The level of sophistication and organization involved in the operation was truly remarkable. A business that allegedly made Deedo up to 50 million Jamaican dollars per day. This staggering amount of money was a testament to the scale and success of the operation. The profits were used to fund further expansion, bribe officials, and maintain the lavish lifestyles of the network's leaders. Deedo, in particular, was known for his opulent lifestyle with luxury cars, mansions, and a seemingly endless supply of cash. The network's success was built on a foundation of corruption, violence, and exploitation, with countless lives being destroyed in the process. Despite the risks and the human cost, the lure of easy money and the promise of a better life continued to draw people into the network, perpetuating the cycle of crime and suffering. How did a man like Deedo stay in power so long? This is a question that has puzzled many for years. Deedo wasn't just any ordinary figure. He was a man who seemed to have an almost mythical grip on his surroundings. His influence was pervasive, and his power seemed unshakable. But what was the secret behind his enduring reign? To understand this, we need to delve deeper into the intricate web of protection and influence that surrounded him. Because he wasn't just feared, he was protected. Deedo's protection wasn't merely about having a few bodyguards or a security detail. It was about a complex network of alliances and loyalties that extended far beyond the visible. His protection was multi-layered, involving not just physical security but also political and social shields. These layers of protection made it incredibly difficult for anyone to challenge his authority or even think about bringing him down. Whispers across Jamaica said he had politicians in his back pocket. These weren't just baseless rumors. They were grounded in a reality that many chose to ignore. Deedo's connections with politicians were not just casual acquaintances, they were deeply rooted alliances. These politicians in turn provided him with the political cover he needed to operate with impunity. They ensured that any legal or political challenges against him were swiftly neutralized. This symbiotic relationship benefited both parties, allowing Deedo to continue his activities without fear of retribution. That some officers, customs officials, and airport staff were paid to look the other way. Corruption was another key element in Deedo's arsenal. By ensuring that key officials were on his payroll, he created a safety net that allowed him to move freely and conduct his operations without hindrance. These bribes were not just one-time payments. They were part of a well-oiled machine that kept the wheels of his empire turning smoothly. The officials who accepted these bribes were complicit in maintaining the status quo, making it nearly impossible for any law enforcement efforts to gain traction. A 2007 U.S. Embassy cable warned of corrupt ties between criminal figures and elected officials. This cable was a stark reminder of the deep-rooted corruption that plagued the system. It highlighted the intricate connections between criminal elements and those in positions of power. The cable served as a warning to those who were willing to listen, but for many, it was just another piece of evidence in a long list of ignored warnings. The ties between criminals and elected officials were not just a local issue. They had international implications, affecting diplomatic relations and the overall stability of the region. While not named in the cable, Deedo's presence loomed large, too large to ignore. His influence was felt in every corner of the community, from the smallest neighborhoods to the highest echelons of power. Deedo was a figure who commanded respect and instilled fear in equal measure. His presence was a constant reminder of the power dynamics at play, and his ability to remain untouchable was a testament to the effectiveness of his protective measures. People knew that challenging Deedo was not just a risky endeavor, it was a potentially fatal one, and too connected to easily bring down. Deedo's network of connections was vast and intricate, resembling a spider's web that ensnared anyone who got too close. His supporters were not just loyal, they were fiercely protective of him, ensuring that any threats to his power were swiftly dealt with. This network extended beyond the local level, reaching into international territories and involving figures of significant influence. Deedo's ability to maintain these connections was a key factor in his enduring power, making him a formidable figure who was nearly impossible to dethrone. But no kingdom lasts forever. In 2004, Deedo was arrested in Jamaica. In 2005, he was extradited to the United States to face federal drug trafficking charges. Behind closed doors, the feds were already tracking his moves. The case, prosecutors said, wasn't just about Deedo. It was about dismantling an entire Jamaican-Colombian pipeline. In 2009, Deedo was convicted in a U.S. court. But the story didn't end there. In 2018, the Jamaican government moved in. Authorities seized 5 properties, 11 vehicles, and millions in bank accounts. The courts called it justice, but some called it revenge. Still, for many Jamaicans, the real loss wasn't his wealth. It was the void left behind. Despite the rumors, despite the law enforcement heat, Deedo was no fugitive in his own neighborhood. He was celebrated. He paid school fees, bought groceries for struggling families, and kept peace when the politicians couldn't. In areas the state forgot, Deedo was the state. When he died, the turnout at his funeral shocked the nation. People didn't just show up, they mourned like they had lost a leader. So who was Norris Deedo Nembhard? A drug kingpin who flooded the streets with poison? A street Robin Hood who gave people a future the government never would? Or a man who was both? One thing is certain, Deedo didn't just move drugs, he moved people, he moved systems, and decades later Jamaica still hasn't agreed on what he truly was. Deedo's death was a turning point, with politicians attending his funeral, sparking assumptions and questions. If this story made you think, like, comment and subscribe, and ask yourself, in a broken system, who really gets to be the villain?